This chapter looks at indexing. And the very first thing we want to do with indexes is actually briefly discuss the different types of indexes, what they are and basically what they do. Well, the first and most obvious one on the screen is a B-tree index, or a binary tree, and often called a balanced tree. What it is essentially a tree with multiple nodes coming off, like an upside down tree, branches going downwards, and then you've got multiple layers of branches of branches of branches until you eventually get to the leaf. The leaf contains the data, the branch nodes and the root node contain the references or the direction towards finding the data. We'll look at it in detail shortly. The next one is a bitmap. A bitmap literally builds a bitmap for data values to reference data values. In other words, a map of zeros and ones. Again, we'll look in the details later in this chapter. A function-based index is actually a special type of B-tree index where it's built out of the result of an applied expression. Again, later. An indexed or an index organized table is actually a table that is built in the structure of a binary tree index. A cluster is not really an index, it's kind of a subset of a table where you take a bunch of columns and you copy them from the table, usually a small number of columns, where those columns are a section or chunk of the table that is accessed a lot more frequently than the table. It can obviously be created as an index and have index created off it, but it's more like a table than an index. A bitmap join is a special type of join where you pre-create a join between multiple bitmap indexes to allow for faster access to large chunks of data, typically in data warehouses. A domain is a special type of index applying to a context or domain. So in Oracle we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types of indexes that we're going to look at. The most important ones are actually the B-tree. It's the most commonly used. A B-tree is widely used because it is efficient for all aspects of reading and writing data. In other words, it's fastest for selecting data, it's fastest for inserting, updating and deleting data. Bitmaps are a special type of index that create a very compact index. They can be useful in data warehouse environments. I have rarely seen them actually be useful, and I have heard some complaints about them even from data warehouse people. Function-based indexes can be very useful because they allow you to pre-apply an expression and create a B-tree index out of the result of a function. You'll see what I mean later on. An index organized table can be useful, but what it does is it basically packs all the data in the sequence of the index, the structure of the index. If you need to access the data outside of the structure of the index, which the entire table is structured in, you're going to end up reading the entire table, so you need to be careful that you only need to read it in that way. Or if you do it in another way, it needs to be very rarely. And make sure you don't have a really large table and you read huge chunks of data and basically shut down your database until you're finished. Clusters are rarely used nowadays. I have not seen them used for years, but they're still in the manuals. Bitmap joins, I have attempted to use bitmap joins between fact and dimension tables in a data warehouse with some success, but again it goes back to the bitmap issue in that they are not particularly useful, or not as useful as one might think. Domains are rather obscure, but we will discuss them briefly.